Hello, I'm Harold Munro, Editor-in-Chief at the Vancouver Sun and Province, and joining us is our legislative reporter, Katie DeRosa from, again, the Legislature in Victoria. You were at home last week, back to the Legislature for our final video of the year. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Harold. Thanks for having me again.
Well, you wrote extensively last week about cancer care and the delays and of course, the situation with the Bellingham Clinic. Why don't you bring us up to speed on some of your reporting from the last week?
Yeah, so after some of those stories, again, heartbreaking stories of families who were speaking out about losing faith in the BC cancer system because of all the delays they faced. A woman reached out to me who actually was part of the government's program to go to Bellingham as part of the province's sort of program to offset the wait list here. So as we know, we've reported people with breast cancer and prostate cancer who are eligible and who need radiation treatment have been selected to go to two clinics in Bellingham. So there was a woman in her 50s who went public with us, talking about her experience, and she was hesitant to go to Bellingham because she wanted to stay in Canada. She wanted to stay at her Abbotsford home. But when she realized that the treatment was going to be 12 weeks off, she thought, well, it's essential to get her radiation as soon as possible. There's a timeline between chemo and radiation that's ideal to make sure that the radiation is effective following chemo. That's between 12 and 16 weeks. And so she decided to go to Bellingham because she didn't want that window to, she didn't want the radiation to become ineffective. And the biggest takeaway that she had was, in comparison to the BC system, the nurses and doctors in the US were, she felt like they weren't as overworked as the BC cancer doctors and nurses. So she really felt like that was problematic, because if nurses and doctors here are burnt out and overworked, then the quality of care is ultimately going to suffer. So, and she also said that there were doctors and nurses in Bellingham who were from BC and who had gone there because of higher pay and perhaps better working conditions. So that was also a concern to her, is that how many BC doctors she had encountered there.
So what is the government saying about all of this as we head into another year, presumably talking some more about healthcare?
So, I mean, Health Minister Adrian Dix has said that the Bellingham program is working. It is getting people out of the wait list here in BC, and that it needs time to ramp up, and that in the last 2 weeks, the government is meeting its target of around 50 people a week. So, the BC United had released figures a few weeks ago showing that only 14 people a week since May had been going, but BC Cancer head Dr. Chi and Health Minister Adrian Dix have said those numbers in the last few weeks have been up to 50, which is the maximum capacity per week. So they're saying that eventually those wait times should go down. But for people who are experiencing, who need chemo and radiation right now, they want to see faster results. And any wait is going to be excruciating for those people. And so we're still hearing stories of those waits, which are just, devastating.
Yes. And then what's the long-term strategy, though? I'm sure it isn't sending people to Bellingham. How do we fix it? How to fix the system?
Dix has said that there's new cancer centers planned for Surrey and Nanaimo, Burnaby, Kamloops. So there will be linear accelerators, which are the machines that deliver the radiation. Those centers will have that equipment. Hopefully, it will have the staff. Obviously, staff is a huge challenge, but those centers are years away. So in the meantime, Dr. Chi has said that there's been 61 oncologists hired, 27 radiation therapists. So, they're saying that more staff is being hired to fill the gaps. Again, so we'll just have to see, but we'll have to see if that makes it a dent in the wait times. But more people are being diagnosed with cancer. Our cancer cases are going up. So the system is trying to catch up to a growing number of people who need chemo and radiation. And that's just, again, we're not catching up right now.
Right. We have population growth. We have an aging population. Both of these things obviously contribute to these numbers going up.
That's right. Yeah. And so again, we're going to keep reporting on this. And I really, every story that we write in our paper about the cancer wait times, we're hearing more stories and more stories of people who say they've fallen through the gaps.
All right. Okay, well, you somehow also had time in and around all of this last week to write about the new grading system in K to 12, I guess not K to 12, some of the older grades, and it's showing up on report cards this last few weeks, and it's certainly the talk of parents and teachers. So what did you discover, Katie?
Yeah, so the government announced in July it would be overhauling the way students from kindergarten to grade 9 get their marks. And so instead of an A to F, they're now getting different, proficient or extending, emerging. And so it's sort of a way to not put kids in the box of, an F obviously has more negative connotations, whereas, developing means the students, developing their skills, but not quite there. Whereas extending means they're, perhaps ahead of other people in the class. They're showing a mastery of the skills. There are some parents who say they were caught off guard, they weren't given enough information. A lot of teachers, I talked to the teachers union, that they feel like teachers have not been given enough time to really understand the new grading system and apply it in a way that's best for their students. So it's really for teachers a question of the resources involved, and also it's really time intensive to have those specific individualized feedback for that student. And so, there's some parents who think it's a great model, but again, the biggest message is really that the resources are just not there for teachers. And again, teachers are already burnt out, and you're adding one more thing onto their plate at a time when they're concerned about even other things in the classroom, enough support for students with special needs, again, just enough classroom support. So if the baseline is not solid, it's a lot to ask for teachers to add on a new grading system, that's why it seems to be landing a bit hard. Even teachers who believe philosophically in this approach are saying, again, follow up with the time and the resources for us to do this right.
So what is the government saying about this? Or does the education minister think there needs to be some tweaks to how it's being done?
I did ask that to Minister Rashna Singh, and she said, that it's a conversation that teachers should be having with their districts, with their school boards. So, a little bit of a
Hmm.
not really taking, pushing the responsibility back onto school boards. And again, I think school board trustees will say, we need the funding if we're going to hire more teachers or have Pro D days. So I really think that perhaps that will be a discussion that rises up in the next session, is a call from teachers for the resources to properly implement this new system.
Okay. Well, it's going to take some getting used to. This is the first report card then, Katie, some schools have been doing it, some districts.
Yes, and yeah, that's a great point. Actually, almost half of BC schools from K to 8 have been testing this as a pilot project. So the biggest change is for grade 9 students. So previously, any schools that were piloting this, it was from K to 8, but now grade 9 is included. So there's also been some criticism of including grade 9 because the kids are going to high school, and so they're going to continue to have the proficiency scale into grade 9, and then grade 10, 11, 12, they go back to grades. So there's a bit of questioning, well, why not just go up until grade 8, and then grade 9 to 12 can be the grading system, because that's where you're preparing for university, and universities still use percentage grades to mark to accept admissions and also for scholarships. So a bit of concern about including grade 9, but the minister, when I talked to her, she assured me that there's no plans to include grade 10 to 12 down the road in this new proficiency scale, as that was a concern that they heard from parents.
Well, if I'm a parent of a grade 9 or even a grade 8 student, in addition to getting this grading system, can I ask the teachers for a percentage?
I mean, like what I was told by one parent is that individual assignments, like a math test, you'd still get your kid's math test, and it would say they got, 90 of 100 or 9 out of 10 questions right, and you can say, well, that's a 90%. So individual assignments could still be graded using percentages, but it's just the overall performance in the at the end of the year or midterm report cards, where you would get the proficient or emerging or developing. But I would assume that the teacher would say, nope, this is what you get, because they're not going to want to do double the work, right? But you
Right.
could still assess where your child is in terms of their performance based on this new proficiency scale.
But it's not as precise. It doesn't break it down into
Right.
as
It's not
many
like
different categories.
89%. It would be, I suppose, I do believe that there'd be a way to kind of say, well, okay, extending could be in this range if parents really wanted to go back to in their head, they want to know the percentages. But, and I was also told, there was one parent who I talked to, her son is applying for scholarships in the US, and she's concerned because in the US, they want the grade point average, the GPA, for grade 9 to 12. So she's saying,
Oh,
well, if there's no grade 9 grade, what does my kid do for, like, they're going to want his grade 9 grade. So that was a bit of a concern that she had, that she hasn't gotten really answers to.
huh. Well, we'll have to see what happens as the year goes on. All
Yeah.
right. Well, Katie, this is our last video for the year. So Merry Christmas to you and your
Yes. Yeah.
family.
I've been enjoying the videos, and I hope our readers have too. So Merry Christmas to our readers, and thanks for listening to us debate the policies.